So, Bobby, how did you first get to know about TR?
When I first got to know about TR, a few years ago, I was struggling quite a lot, and I was backwards and forwards from the doctors. I got put on antidepressants, trying sleeping tablets. I was just like getting passed from pillar to post off the doctors, and the counselling the doctors were helping us with and putting us in contact with. It wasn't really helping us. So I just kept struggling on my own for years. And I got to a point in my life where I knew I had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I knew I had to like try and find help myself kind of thing. So just off the off chance, I can remember Caroline from Victim Support.
Right.
And I just dropped her an email, and Caroline was the first person who mentioned the TR
Mm-hmm.
therapy, and she told us about Don being somebody who was trained to give this therapy. And then we just went from there.
Okay. So I gather that you had an intensive session with Don. How was that sort of set up?
When Don offered the therapy, we went for the option where I went away from home.
Mm-hmm.
I checked into a hotel for a week. It was not long after the anniversary of the girl's death. I think it was beginning of January.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Don saying that I needed to be in like the best place I possibly could, like alcohol free, like sleepless nights free. I needed to be on the ball
Mm-hmm.
for this therapy to work because it's like very in depth in your mind and your brain, if you want to say that. So I can remember it was around about Christmas time, which is a hard time for me in anyways. I just kind of took myself away from everybody. I don't even think I told many people about it. So because I wanted, because I needed to give it the best shot I possibly could. So I kind of distanced myself from a few friends and family over Christmas and New Year, and I kept away from alcohol and drugs because I was quite like bad at the time, like drinking and taking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down to Yorkshire and I met Don. I booked into a hotel and we started our therapy on a Monday morning. I think I went
Mm-hmm.
down on a Sunday night because I tried to get the best night's sleep I could, so I wasn't tired, and I tried to give the therapy the best go.
And so how did you feel? How were you feeling when you went for your first session with Don? Were you worried or?
I wasn't really worried because I've met Don in the past, and like I knew Don like personally, kind of thing. Like I classed him as somebody who I already knew, so I wasn't nervous in the fact that I was meeting someone new. I was nervous in how this therapy would work because I can remember Don explaining to me that in the past, like clients or people he's worked with, he said it's like a therapy what will either work or you'll know straight away, like if it is working or if it isn't working. I
Mm-hmm.
can remember him like saying it was like something will just click in your brain and you'll know that something's doing you some good. So I
Mm-hmm.
was pretty nervous, like thinking how can just a bit of counselling or therapy, however you want to put it, work so good. But so I was nervous in that fact that I wasn't sure how it was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't nervous in like going down to meet Don or anything like that.
No. And did Don put any special measures into place? You know, did he have a room set up or?
Yeah, I was in some offices. It was just like a meeting room,
Mm-hmm.
quite comfortable room. There was like a sofa and desk and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And you felt quite safe in there? You weren't worried somebody was going to walk in or?
Yeah, I felt pretty safe. Yeah, I wasn't I wasn't put in an environment where I felt unsafe or felt nervous or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. And how long did your first session run for? Can you remember?
My first session, I think we started around about 9 a.m. We had a short break. We finished around about 2 or 3. Well, the first day was the longest day. That was
Wow.
the hardest day.
Mhm.
Yeah, we started with some tasks. Don asked me to write a list of things, what I thought in my mind, what were causing me problems.
Mhm.
And we came up with it was quite a funny list. Well, it wasn't funny, but there was a couple of like things on there what stood out,
Mhm.
what I thought were massive problems. And we had about 7 or 8 subjects on this list. And by the end by the end of it by the end of the first day, I think we spoke in depth about them all, with
Mhm.
some of them more than others.
Mhm.
And after the first day, the things I thought in my mind what were causing me the most trouble weren't weren't like weren't like relevant. There was no more after Don had went through this therapy and like
Mhm.
the tasks they do and the questions they ask you and the way they ask you.
Mhm.
So it was obviously a very difficult day, but it was quite an interesting, fun kind of day, if that makes
Right.
sense. It's like I've spoken to Don loads of times. It's the hardest thing in the world to explain how this therapy helped us, but I don't know, it just did. It was strange.
So it was very much a question then of you deciding what you wanted to talk about and Don just helping you to talk about those things.
I'm trying to think.
You
Do you
picked
want
the
us to?
topics.
Yeah. Do you want us to speak about the topics? What on the list, or what? Because I
Entirely
don't.
up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for Don, it's more a question of getting over the fact that it's very much led
Yeah.
by the client, not by the person running the session.
Yeah. Well, what was the question again? Can you
So
remember?
did you choose the topics that you spoke about, or did Don choose those topics?
We had around about 7 or 8 topics on the list, and Don asked me what I was comfortable in speaking
Right.
about, and what topics I wanted to speak about first.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I wanted to speak about the topics what I thought were my problems. So
Yeah.
we spoke about them, but the way the therapy went, after speaking about these topics for a certain amount of time, it was like I was thinking halfway through speaking about them that this topic's not really that much of a problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Don explained to me how the therapy worked, it was like your brain's like a filing cupboard, and I was unclogging my brain because the
Yeah.
trauma I've suffered had caused my brain to clog up, freeze,
Mm-hmm.
and the therapy was helping me unclog my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So after talking about these topics for so long, maybe an hour, 2 hours on a certain topic, these topics weren't so much a problem to me anymore. Maybe it's because I was unblocking my brain. My brain started processing
Mm-hmm.
what I've been struggling with for years.
That's
If that
good.
makes sense. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So that was day one, and what happened? Did anything happen overnight? Did you
Well, we spoke about all the topics on day one,
Mhm.
and like Don explained to me before the therapy, it's either and Don's words where he says it's a therapy where you'll either think in your head this isn't working, this is not for me, or he says you'll know. And I can remember after the first day, I remember like going back to my hotel room and I just felt a complete different person. And that was
Wow.
after like 6-7 hours. It was crazy, but obviously went back to the room. I was like I had a lot to digest in my brain what I've been speaking about. So
Mhm.
I just got my head down. I had a quiet night. I went swimming because I was right behind some swimming baths in my hotel. So I went swimming,
Mhm.
trying myself out a bit more, even though I was already like worn out of the therapy because obviously I
Mhm.
was speaking and thinking in depth all day. But the second day, I went back and we spoke about some other topics what were on the list
Mhm.
again. but we just briefly, like, quickly went through them because the first day was that successful. I didn't, like, in my mind, that these topics, what I thought what were giving me so much struggle, they didn't anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So, and then have you had any more sessions with Don since that time?
No, I was going to go back for some follow-up sessions, but I went to Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, I got I got offered me voluntary redundancy from work. I think it was March 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and I was meant to go and meet Don again in April, but I nicked off to Australia for 4 or 5 months. I didn't tell anyone about that either. It was just something what I knew I needed to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I used that as a bit of therapy as well, to get away from
Mm-hmm.
things at home. That helped
So,
me a
what
lot.
do you think? Do you think going to Australia and the sessions that you had with Don, particularly the sessions with Don, do you think they've impacted you at all? Did they change how you were feeling about things?
If I'm truthfully honest, the sessions probably saved my life.
Wow.
Probably did. I'd have probably drank myself to death or done something stupid to myself, because my life was, before I went for the therapy with Don, my life was an absolute mess.
Right.
For about a year or 2 years, and I was suicidal. I'd go out, I'd use drugs from a Friday to a Sunday, drinking,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'd be at work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so depressed and down. I was just like stuck in a massive rut and I couldn't get out of it.
Right.
And so if I didn't go for that therapy, I don't think I'd be able to do it.
That's quite a statement to say that it's changed your life or saved your life.
Yeah.
And you really believe that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Changed my life massively.
Wow.
Changed my life massively.
That's great.
It made us like, oh, yeah, it did, yeah.
That's fantastic. So can I just ask you, before you had the therapy with Don, had you tried traditional therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy and that talking therapies?
Before I had therapy with Don, I'd accessed about 4 or 5 different counsellors through my doctors.
Yeah.
And I had some therapy of someone who like specialised a bit more in bereavement.
Yeah.
Rather than just a normal general counsellor from a GP. And I even told on this, I can remember like going for counselling sessions at my local doctors for weeks and weeks on end. And my counsellor said to us, how do you think your counselling's coming on? And I says, do you want us to be honest? And said, yeah. I says, well, complete waste of time. I says, me coming here and speaking to you doesn't help me in any way at all. I says, and what you tell me to do, and says, doesn't help us. So I think I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting your time. And that happened on and off for years. I just never felt any benefit from it. But people in my family, my aunties and some of my uncles and my dad, I always used to think, because I could hear them speaking, like I've heard them say, oh, I've been to my counsellor today down the doctors. I feel so much better after walking out, after speaking to my counsellor for an hour or 2 hours. But I'd never ever felt that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can always remember thinking in my head, well, why is counselling not helping me?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, like obviously now we know, because I wasn't suffering with depression, I wasn't anxiety, like I was basically traumatized.
Yeah.
It was a trauma, and it was a trauma therapy. And the techniques they use in your trauma therapy, what I've needed in my life. I haven't needed a counsellor.
Yeah.
We know that now. It just took around about 7 years to discover this therapy.
Well, at least Don got there for you in the end.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
So would you, I mean, I know you said you knew Don a little bit, but you weren't nervous to meet him. But would you recommend TR to people, a TR session to somebody who's like you, similarly traumatized, maybe not by the same thing, but any sort of traumatic thing? Would you recommend the sessions?
Well, obviously, people can be traumatized through anything in life. Like, obviously, I've been traumatized through a triple murder to my family. People can be traumatized by losing a baby, by a car crash, by anything. And the way trauma therapy's helped me, I'd tell anyone who thinks they may need it to give it a go, because the way it's changed my life, it's like anything's worth a go. Like when you're in a situation in your life where you're struggling, for the sake of a few hours or a few days, definitely give it a go.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Do you think there's anything else that you'd like to add?
No. I always, my mind always goes blank when I get asked that question, but there's always something you think of a bit further down the line.
But we can add stuff to the video, obviously. So that's brilliant. I have no idea how the quality of it will work out, so hopefully it'll be good.
I know. It's a shame we couldn't get together and do it in person, because we were going to do this a few months ago. The local journalist who I know was going to come to my house and set a bit of a studio, but then COVID struck. So but if this helps, if this works, then it's been worth doing, isn't it?
Well, it hasn't taken very long. It's only taken us 20 minutes, so I'm sure if we need to, we can get together again. It's great to I'll just turn the recording off. It's great to talk to you and to understand how it's benefited you. I'm so pleased that it's helped you.
Yeah,
it's great.
It helped us massively. Like, I can remember driving home. from the therapy. I was driving up the motorway, and I think it was only on the Wednesday morning, and I just drove home with a grin on my face like a Cheshire cat from ear to ear. It was like, it's hard to explain how it's helped you, because no one really knows how your brain works. Your brain's like unexplainable kind of thing, but it helped my brain.
That's great.
For me, but I can remember just driving home, just thinking I'm fixed. It was strange.
That's great. So how long are you in Manchester for?
I'm in Manchester